It is another modcast on Orange Bloods Live. Glad you're in on a Tuesday. It is brought to you by Daily and Black. Thanks to Daily and Black for sponsoring each and every week. If you need lawyers that are going to be on your side, check them out. There's your QR code, Daily and Black. I'm going to make it real simple this week. I'm going to throw out a stat and then we're going to discuss it. But this one came into my world today. Here we go. In the last 20 years of college football, if you are a quarterback making your first start against the number one team in America, you are 0 for 18. You heard me correctly. Let it soak in. If you start your first start against the number one team over the last 20 years, you are 0 and 18. That's obviously what Julian Sayin will be facing in Columbus. Let's get the reaction from Jason Sukumel, Cody Carpentier, and Alex Dunlap. Jason, I'll start with you. What's your reaction to that stat?
A lot of immediate thoughts. Like, I would think a lot of those are season openers. If he's making his first start, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just would think that'd be season openers. And your 0 and 18 kind of makes sense, but you're probably not taking over for the defending national champs. I would guess this might be the only time someone's taking over for the defending national champs and playing the number one team in week one. It's an interesting stat. And you're also taking over for a quarterback who's still playing against a quarterback who's still fairly inexperienced in his own right. So it's an interesting stat that pushes me more towards Texas's direction than I probably already was. But I also think, I'm going to say it's skewed a little bit because this is a very unique situation. I mean, they're playing at home. They're the defending champs. He's got amazing talent around him, including at the receiver position. The team he's playing that's number one, it's week one. They've got some question marks maybe on offense a little bit. They're breaking in a new quarterback of their own. So interesting stat, interesting dynamic. I would not have guessed 0 and 18, but I'm betting if I had a list of those other 18 games, I bet this one shapes up a little bit differently than all the other ones.
Yeah, Alex, these are my favorite kind of stats because they both can mean everything and can mean absolutely nothing. What goes through your brain when you hear a stat like that?
Well, I think in one way, the one thing, and that's going back to when
20 years, last 20 years. So basically going back to think about Vince, going back to Vince's time at Texas.
So, like Jason, I began to think, okay, well, when are these going to occur? And my thoughts immediately went to season openers, right? Mm-hmm. And so, if we're talking about season openers versus the number one team in the country, right? Generally, if you're the number one team in the country, how often do you have these games where you're going against, in your first game, the Ohio States of the world?
Yeah. Right? How often are you on the road for that matter?
And how often are you well, right. But I mean, but just from the Texas standpoint, mm-hmm. If you're Texas or if you're another school that's coming into the season number one, it just feels like to me, I don't have any anecdotal evidence the evidence for this is only anecdotal. Right. But it seems like to me, season openers are usually against the Appalachian states of the world, right? Or against the UTEPs or the New Mexico states or the Sam Houstons, and so I feel like the stat could be a little bit deceiving because it feels like before you get into conference play, it's always, you're playing against this team that's an underling of a team that's just there to collect a paycheck anyway, and they have some new quarterback, and you're the number one team in the country. I'll bet you that half those stats are in games like that. So I don't think you can totally draw I'd be interested to know how many of those quarterbacks were like 5 stars and number one in their class starting their first game. Right.
Be careful lumping Appalachian State in with New Mexico, Alex. Come on now.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to bring it up around an Aggie. I'm sorry.
Hey, yeah, be careful. Give me the cold chills talking about Appalachian State. What are you talking about? Somebody threw in the chat, what were those teams ranked with a new starting quarterback? That's a fair question to ask. This team will be number 3 in the country with this, quarterback in his first start. That's got to be a rarity. And then, Alex, you bring up a great point about where we're, because the stat doesn't speak to 5-star guys. It doesn't speak to where you're ranked as a quarterback. It just says you're making your first start. So this could be a first start for the Kansas quarterback against some badass OU team back in the day that's number one, just to throw an example out. It could be that as well. It doesn't have to be some primetime matchup. Cody, what's your thought on this 0 for 18 thing?
That's a pretty amazing stat. Not sure how you found it. Would love to see all 18 listed out and have the same, like a similar thought as Alex saying, like, it's probably a lot of G5 teams and maybe a couple of FCSs in there. Maybe. I went back to 2006 just because that was like the fringe of the 20 years and saw that Colt McCoy's second start was that game against Ohio State that they lost 24-7. It was 1-2 at Texas, and that was the defending national champion Texas against the new number one in America. So the situation just kind of tilted the opposite direction here. And Ohio State won that game 24-7. I guess that's his technically Colt's first Power 5 start. The first game was against what was it? I just read it. It was not Northern Illinois. Who was it that year in 2006?
Don't ask
North
me.
Texas. North Texas.
Oh, okay. So technically his first start was North Texas.
Yeah, but then it was like the Big Ten game against Ohio State the next week, right? Then that was the loss, 24-7. I don't know. I would love to see the 18 list, but there's also the interesting aspect of just saying that. I wonder what it would be. This would be a much deeper dive to find out, like against Power 5, like your first start against a Power 5 school, what's the record?
Right. Yeah, that's true. If you expanded it out a little bit. By the way, full disclosure, I wish I had all 18 listed out too, Cody. I did not do all that work. I was watching Sports Center and the anchor threw it out verbally. They didn't put it on the screen. He said it and I went rewound and like, wait, did he say that correctly? So I am trusting Sports Center. So we are all very clear on this particular stat. But the other thing, just to speak on a little history, I'll show y'all the graphic that they threw up on the screen that just kind of caught my attention because this is over the last 10 years. Check this out. Over the last 10 years, this is only the fourth time that two quarterbacks ranked this highly have matched up, kind of to Alex's question about where were you ranked. So those two bottom matchups are national semifinal matchups between Trevor and Justin. They split them. Obviously, we know what happened with Bryce Young and Quinn Ewers in 2022. That's Quinn getting the win over Bryce. And now it's this one, Arch Manning and Julian Sayin. And then I just threw the 20-year stat that I mentioned kind of at the bottom there. But that's what got my attention. And then the announcer, the Sports Center anchor says that about the starting quarterback making the first start. And I kind of jotted it down and thought, now there's a discussion point for the day because it is and to Julian Sayin's part of it, if you're going to have a team around you and you're going to have a spot to do it, you talk about an opportunity to break this string at 0-18 and get to 1-18 because he's at home. That's the other thing. How many of those guys would have been at home making their first start with a team that was national championship good? Some of the guys that were national championship good from the previous year. It's just an interesting thing to think about. If you guys want to throw in on the chat, feel free. If you want to super chat it in, that'll go right to the top of the list. S. Roan, I see what you're doing here, and I'm going to say it out loud. Hey, Chad, what's the only SEC team that hasn't had a win against a ranked team on the road? If you mean in the last 10 years or so, S. Roan, it is A&M. A&M is 0-13 for the last decade on the road against a ranked team. They haven't beaten one since 2014, and Kyle Allen was the quarterback the day they did it. Only Vanderbilt can go. You got to go back farther with Vanderbilt to get to, I think, 07 was the last time they beat a ranked team on the road.
That's shocking. Like 0-13 isn't that shocking to me when we're talking about Chad's beloved Aggies. They've only played 13 ranked teams on the road in the last decade playing in the SEC.
Yeah.
That's shocking to me. I would have thought it'd be 20 plus.
That's a good point. It's a good point. Oh, and the only team that's 0 and worse is Vanderbilt.
Hey, Chad, what year did the Aggies join the SEC?
2012.
Okay.
Yeah, because 2011 was the game in College Station with the Tucker kick. So 2012, the Johnny Manziel Heisman season, that's their first season in the SEC.
Okay.
Yeah. S. Roan, thank you for that stat. Yes, that's one that.
While we're talking, I got to put this up. Rex St. Charles says, it's likely that Julian Sayin would be making his first start for Texas if Arch Manning had been born and first off, Rex, you're right. Julian Sayin would have committed to Texas. Secondly, I'm not so sure Ann Manning wouldn't be a hell of a quarterback, even just a daughter coming from that Manning family might be pretty damn good. But yeah, if Texas didn't have Arch, I mean, Julian Sayin was probably going to go to Texas once they got Arch. He was pretty open about it too. He goes, "Yep, I'm pretty much done with Texas." I mean, so yeah, he's not wrong. Julian Sayin would probably be starting this game wearing a white uniform with burnt orange numbers on it rather than for Ohio State this year.
That is not a. Yeah, I don't think that's inaccurate at all. If you guys want to throw in here under the chat, we will get to it. I want to ask all these guys a question about Julian Sayin because I'm getting the sense. I was going in the comment section. Thank you guys for going into the comment section on these YouTube videos. We're trying to get in there and interact with you. And boy, were there a lot of Ohio State fans that jumped into yesterday's 12 o'clock show when we were talking about Julian Sayin and what Jeff Ketchum heard about Julian Sayin from an Ohio State source. We will get to that, and I'll see if any of these guys are hearing a similar thing about Sayin. Before we do it, let's start thanking our great partners around here. And y'all have heard me talk about Hays City Store before. So this is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to show you something I've never shown you with Hays City Store. I'm trying to get my daughter, new college student, to meet up with us at Hays City Store. It's actually not that far from where she is at Texas State now. She was kind of hemming and hawing, being a typical teenager. And then I showed her this. And what do you know? My daughter wants to meet us at Hays City Store pretty soon to try the brownie sundae. If you want to try it, get on out there yourself to Driftwood. FM 150, make your reservation ahead of time. Trust me on that one. It will make things a lot easier. And then just go have a great time. That's a way you can end it with the brownie sundae. But all the great pork chops and burgers and pizza and all the cool stuff we talked about. If you haven't had chicken fried steak in a while and you just love CFS, go after it. It's one of the best chicken fried steaks I've ever had. So all of it's great at Hays City Store. They've now got the brownie sundae as well. So gentlemen, the thing that seems to have happened in the last couple days, Jeff Ketchum came on the show and he also went on ultimately on orangebloods.com and his 10 thoughts from the weekend. And I think that's where it first came out, but he talked to an Ohio State source that kind of gave him a sense of Julian Sayin, like he's going to be the guy, but he's kind of maybe not turnover prone, but was a little concerned about maybe that he was a little loose with the ball or that there had been some turnovers or whatever. But I get the sense that the Ohio State fans are not thinking along those lines. So, you know, in the comment section of YouTube, Ketch was accused of making something up or what was this source or whatever. I just want to ask the three of you, have any of you heard anything similar to that about Sayin and maybe a little sloppiness? Show of hands, anybody with some sloppy?
Yeah, we had Anand on our show, Anand Nanduri, who gets like, he stands on the sidelines for Ohio State games. He goes to all the practices. He's like, how he gets all this access, I guess he gives him a bunch of money, I'm sure. But he was on the show and he was saying, like, you know, we were talking about Cody, what's the name of the other Lincoln
Keyholes.
Yeah, Lincoln Keyholes. He was saying that, you know, there was still at that point in time, they had to announce Julian Sayin as the starter. That was last week on either Thursday or Friday. And he was saying he thought that was the way it was going to go. But he did say you do worry a little bit about how, there was some stuff where, you know, there had been some up and down stuff through camp. Maybe Lincoln is the guy who could come in and have a little bit more of an even and steady hand, even though he doesn't have any of the dynamism or talent that Julian Sayin does. And, you know, in my mind, I was thinking, well, of course it's going to be Sayin. You get the 5-star kid in there, you throw him into the fire and see what happens. I do think, man, what a brutal. It's a tough task, man, going up again. And it's a tough task going up against the Colin Simmons of the world, the Ethan Burks of the world, the Anthony Hills, the Trey Moores, and all this. You got to remember, like Ohio State, they lost Josh Simmons to the draft last year, late first round pick, but first round pick to the Kansas. Cody, was that first round? That was 32, right? Yeah, to the Kansas City Chiefs. And then now they're having to they're looking at a swing. Their swing tackle and a guy that was possibly going to start at right tackle was a transfer from Rice. And so it's like, either. First of all, I wonder how Texas didn't. If he ends up playing, it sure would be a shame that Texas didn't get in on that thing right in their backyard. But you kind of think like a guy that was in the running to start, but it looks like he's going to be their key swing tackle guy is a transfer out of Rice. I think that they feel good about the interior of that offensive line, but I wonder, man, coming off these edges, if you're a guy that's just prone to maybe there's a little bit of a worry behind the scenes, you've been a little up and down, you could get the yips. It's man, you got PK that schemes that stuff up on the back end, and now you got Akina where they're going to be able to disguise some things, be able to kind of do some wizardry against a dude that hasn't seen it moving that fast yet. And you can get that kind of edge pressure where I feel like Texas, we'll see in Jason's matchups call him, but I think that maybe if you're talking about just the edge, Jason, but you don't do it like that. You do offensive line versus defensive line.
Yeah.
If there was one like edge rush versus tackles, I would look at that as probably one of the biggest advantages that Texas might have in this game. And so if I were an Ohio State fan looking at it without bias, I would say, yeah, I'm worried about that. The same way as somebody that covers Texas, and I look at it without bias. I'm like, I don't know how the offensive line for Texas is going to look.
Right.
I worry about it. Not so much about the edge pressure and stuff, but just can they get movement? Right. That's the thing we've been hearing. They've been having a little bit of an issue with generating movement off the line of scrimmage. Ohio State, they lost some really good players in that department, right? They Sawyer,
Mulowal.
They lost JTT. They lost Ty. What's his Tyleek? They lost. Who was the
Hero Canoe?
Well,
there you go.
Trying to think of the downhill linebacker. Was it Cody Simon?
Wait.
Yeah, I think you're
Didn't
right.
he go in the draft in the 4th round?
Did he go to the Broncos?
Yes, Cody Simon. You're right.
Okay. And so like obviously they've lost some pieces in that front seven, but I still like if I'm objectively looking at it, I kind of worry about Texas offensive line. Like it's just something where it's like, well, look at the matchups. I think it's a little bit of a worry. I would say that if I was an Ohio State fan, I would kind of look at this thing and be like, well, new quarterback, hadn't really seen this much. They got a good secondary. Like I worry a little bit about that edge matchup.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, Cody. If I'm an Ohio State fan, my worry would be I saw Ohio State fans in the comment section thinking that they're going to pick Texas apart with the passing game. They're going to attack them. They're thinking about Smith. They're thinking about Carnell Tate coming back. They're thinking about Ennis being there and trying and getting better from what he's been, and Max Clare. But the question is, in his very first start against this Texas defense that Alex was just talking about, can they really unlock their wide receivers? To me, that may be the biggest question to this game. If they make their guys look like they did against Tennessee in that playoff game, Texas is in deep trouble. But I'm just not so sure they can do that.
Yeah, if ifs were fifths, we'd all be drunk. I think they wish they could do that. That's their plan. That's what everybody wants them to do. It's as maniacal as Texas fans are. Ohio State fans are right there with their expectations going into every season. And that was their expectation going into that semifinal. And Jeremiah Smith ended up with what? Not a lot, right? It was a lot of Ibuka and Carnell Tate that kind of became a thing, but they also had a quarterback that was 17 games into his season. Like, I think Sayin's going to be fine, but in the same breath that Ryan Day says, this was his quote from his press conference yesterday, why did Julian Sayin get the job? He was praised for consistency, taking care of the football, his growth over the last 6 months, and his production this spring and summer. Whilst in the next sentence saying, we also feel like Lincoln is ready to play. And 2 paragraphs or 2 questions later, he says he was asked if Lincoln's athleticism could be helped or used in a package this year. And he said, yes, definitely. Yes, for sure. Like the quarterback thing to me is not set in stone. I think obviously Julian Sayin is going to start, but they still really like Lincoln Keenholz, who had 1,400 rushing yards his last year in high school and scored 60 touchdowns. And they have 3 running backs that they love, and they won't name a starting running back right now because Lamar Bo Jackson is his name, but he's had such a good fall camp that they don't know who's the starting running back. And like Alex said, they have 6-7 offensive linemen that they really want to play. They don't have 5. They have 6 and 7 that they say they're going to rotate. They say, yeah, some guys are going to get 20 snaps and then get rotated in and out of, which is not normal on the offensive line. When I hear all of that, but then you also have the fans in the background saying, we're going to throw the football over your head. Well, guess what? Texas's defensive back group is probably the best group on the roster. It's probably the deepest and the best, I would say. So when you put all that together, that just tells me Ohio State's going to run the football. Like, if you aren't going to go out there and say, hey, Julian, you're going to throw the ball 57 times against Texas. You're going to go in there with C.J. Donaldson, James Peoples, and Bo Jackson. You're going to run that football because that's how your offensive line is going to cohesively come together early, and it's going to give you the best chance to win.
Yeah, Jason, I would think if I could keep my quarterback around, 25 attempts in this game, I got a pretty good chance to control it. Something like that.
That depends on how you get to 25 attempts.
That's true. That's a good point.
25 attempts on 8 3-and-out drives or something.
Because I would love it. I mean, heck, if you can go run
20
the
of them
ball
are in the fourth quarter. Yeah.
If you can run the ball right up and down the field, maybe you can keep it around 20. But I made it 25 because I'm just thinking, and maybe it's more like 30. But to me, if you can keep it around 25 and you're dominating in a run game and you do effective things with those 25, I don't know. That could be a nice number to me.
But you don't want to throw the ball a lot if you're Ohio State. You got a quarterback who's thrown 12 career passes in college football, making his first start against the number one team in the country. If you're throwing the ball, Alex mentioned it, their tackles might not be their strength. That's going up against a Texas strength in rushing off the edge. They can pin their ears back. So they're going to try to slow this game down. I'm not sure both teams don't try to slow this game down a little bit, to be honest with you, but certainly I think Ohio State will. As Cody mentioned, I mean, they're going to try to run the ball with those backs, keep the Texas offense off the field, maybe make Julian Sayin. And I'm not saying Julian Sayin by the end of this year won't be a really good quarterback. He might be, and I think he has that capability. But I think in game one, you want him to be a game manager, a bus driver, if you will. So I think they're going to do everything they can to take the pressure off him, especially. I think they do that no matter who they were playing. But when you factor in that they're playing against Colin Simmons and these other weapons Texas has coming off the edge, against their tackles, they're not going to have him back there just slinging the ball all over the field. I certainly don't think so. I think that would be a mistake on their part. I think they try to shorten this game up, keep it low scoring, control the football, limit their turnovers. If what Ketch heard and reported is true, I don't know. I haven't talked to Ohio State people yet. I will start working on that pretty soon. But it stands to reason if they're worried about him turning the ball over. I mean, the dude hasn't played much. I mean, that's a concern for every young quarterback. So does that mean he's been turning the ball over in camp a bunch? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But I mean, I would think every coaching staff or team source would say, yeah, we're worried about our quarterbacks playing clean football. You heard Sark mention it on Saturday. One of the biggest things for him was, hey, the quarterbacks played clean football other than one fumbled exchange. I mean, that's a big deal for inexperienced quarterbacks. So, would you set the number at, Chad, 25?
Yeah.
Saying? The gameplay, how the game unfolds will dictate a lot of that. But I think the lower the number, probably the better the potential outcome for Ohio State. The lower the passing attempts, probably the better their chances of winning that game.
Yeah. All right, let's grab a super chat here from our guy, Tom G. Thank you, Tom, for that 20 spot. What's up, OB fam? Chad, I hate to say it, but Ketch agreed to draft for me in the fantasy football since I will be in Ireland and not available. Good Lord, Tom. Alex, Cody, I expect better from you this year. Hook 'em.
Well, I expect better from me. I expect better from me this year, too. I expect better from Tyreek Hill this year. I
can tell you're spreading the blame around.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Tom G, thank you for the super chat. Tom G, we started up a league because Ketch quit the other league. I just broke up the other league. I can't believe that.
Wait, the Orange Bloods league is broken up?
Yeah, Ketch just quit the league. So
I knew he quit, but I thought the rest of y'all were still going.
I was going to say, doesn't it keep going?
Well, we made a new one called the continuation league, but we had to add. We added like Tom G and. They're like Anwar quit playing.
Oh wow, I didn't know all this.
Okay. A bunch of guys quit playing, and so
Ketch will never admit this. But I'm gonna tell you something I've never said out loud, and he will never admit this. That Orange Bloods league was a league I started up with my buddies, and then Ketch and a couple of our friends got in, and even a couple of their girlfriends, and then it transformed into an Orange Bloods league. But that was actually a league 25 years ago that me and a couple of my buddies started up. Yeah, so.
How about that?
A little piece of trivia.
Tom G is just talking smack because he got into that league and he beat us to make the playoffs, and so that's what he's talking about. So nice work, Tom G.
There it is.
But
Tom wins at the poker table. He wins at fantasy football. He wins in life. Tom's got everything.
Tom's just winning all of it. Tom, whatever you do, just don't suck Jeff Ketchum back into fantasy football with the picking. I do not need to hear him complain about fantasy football for another 20 years or whatever, like he has ever since the day I met him. All right. We are in the middle of a modcast here. Thanks to you guys for jumping in. Almost 500 of you in the Specs chat. We'll hear from Specs a little later on. Also, speaking of our great partners, how about a little sinus and snoring specialist? This one's simple. It's about sleeping good, feeling good, resting good, getting rid of your allergies for good. That's what I did in 2017. If you snore like crazy, if you have sleep apnea, if you think it could be really bad, but you've just been afraid to ask that question, this is the place that can help you. Check them out. 601-0303. Securely text them or call them on that number. Go to the website, sinussnoringent.com. You can start looking at the info. They've got great videos to kind of help explain some of the things they do. Dr. Slaughter doing amazing work for over 20 years. Now they've got another doctor in there, Dr. Salvador, who came in from California. He's got over a decade of experience. They have more appointment times for you now. Morning, afternoon, whatever works for you. Check them out. Make sure you tell them you heard about it here on Orange Bloods Live. Sinus and snoring specialist. Feel clear, rested, and healthy. You're going to need all of that because, football season's coming up. You got to be able to get up early for all the games and all that stuff. NFL games are going to kick at 8:30 when they go from Europe and all that good stuff. So be sure you are ready. All right. By the way, shout out to Tex Blonde, who is real and jumped in the chat today. Good to see you back. This eerily feels like the Michigan game last year. No confidence with the quarterback.
I think that there was zero with last year. There's more confidence in Julius than there was in Alex Orji.
This is a different level, right? Come on.
Warren.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you what, Tex Blonde, if you're as a Texas fan, you want to hope you're right. You want to hope that halfway through that first quarter, you get the same feeling you got in Ann Arbor last year, because you could tell in that first half, oh, good grief, Michigan does not have a quarterback that can deal with Texas. So that's what you want. I'm not sure if you're going to see that exact thing this year. I don't know if that's fair. Also, guys, speaking of quarterbacks, I've been seeing the comments on both sides from Texas fans about the fact that Sark isn't really talking about Arch recently. A couple different press conferences have gone by now. He doesn't get asked about Arch. He doesn't really talk about Arch. To me, there's confidence, I think, that you can have there if you're a Texas fan. I kind of like that part. So for you guys, how do you assess that situation right now? If a Texas fan wants to say, wait a minute, should I be concerned? Is he overprotecting Arch or any of that stuff? Like, Jason, to me, that just sounds like great news because it's just something, it's a known quantity, if you will. It's something you don't feel like you need to talk about or ask about.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think he shies away from talking about him by any means. He just wasn't asked about him after the scrimmage on Saturday, and then Sark was available yesterday as well. So, yeah, I just, I don't think he's been asked about him directly. I'm sure if you ask about him, you're probably going to get a fairly packaged answer. Hey, Arch is doing some good things. He's still young. We're working on some things, blah, blah, blah. I think Arch is, by the things I've heard in fall camp, I think he's been decent. But, I mean, we do hear, Sark doesn't, I don't think he likes us saying this, but we do hear that the defense is winning more than the offense is winning. But, I think, like you said, Chad, Arch is kind of a known commodity. I mean, listen, he's the Heisman Trophy favorite coming into the season, or he was a few weeks ago. I'm assuming he still is. That being said, there are still some unknowns about Arch Manning and this offense. We don't know what this offensive line is going to be like. Are they going to be able to protect him? Are they going to be able to run the ball? I heard from Saturday's scrimmage, talking to sources, hey, there's a real concern with the run blocking. Pass pro, not as much. Run blocking, there's a concern. Are some of these young receivers going to step up? I mean, is Arch Manning, we've seen flashes where he is like, whoa, that dude is every bit of what he's cracked up to be. We've heard people talking about it. Ed Orgeron this week said, hey, he's the closest thing to Joe Burrow he's seen. Well, dude, we've got to see that over the course of more than just some mop-up duty or a couple starts against overmatched competition. I mean, I'm not saying Arch isn't going to be great, okay? Because if you're asking me to put my money down, I'm putting my money down that Arch is going to be really, really good. He's going to be a first-round draft pick, maybe the number 1 pick overall. I'm willing to take those bets. I think that's what we're going to see. But it's not a given, man. It's not 100% locked in. There still is a little bit of unknown with Arch Manning taking over a team for an entire season. So we have, but the answer to your question, Chad, we just haven't heard a lot of direct questions about Arch's play in fall camp. I think people just assume Arch is Arch. He's going to be good. Let's ask about some of these backup quarterbacks or the offensive line or the young guys on the defense. You know, there's just different questions that have been featured in these media settings.
Yeah. But also, and Alex, you know this better than anybody. You covered some of these press conferences and stuff. I'm thinking of it as, why would I go if I'm, you know, Anwar, Kirk Bowles, etc., and I'm going to every one of these press events? Am I really going to ask about Arch or Colin Simmons or Anthony Hill or Michael Taft, the 3 guys that were on the the preseason AP team? Are there a lot of questions about those guys, or do we assume those guys are all right? You want to ask about other guys, right? Like you want to expand, I think, the questions that get asked rather than show up every single time and ask about Arch.
Well, it's just like, yeah, man, I think that you can ask the questions just to get it out of it. Like Kirk Bowles, I noticed once he asked just like, hey, is Arch doing a good job protecting the football? Right. Yeah. I think just kind of doing those little checkups every now and then is saying like, all right, well, where is he as far as is he throwing interceptions? You know, where are we with that? I think those are things to kind of, you know, you got to keep an eye on it. You have to, you know, and if you're Anwar, you know, he always wants to lead with the quarterback. It's just, that's like Journo 101, right? It's like you ask about the quarterbacks. But I think that, yeah, I think that there are other questions. I think there are other kind of more pressing questions. Like, look, here's my thing. I feel bad because sometimes I want to like skip church because I know that when I go up there, when we're standing around and doing the whole coffee thing and, you know, like, oh, it's all I'm going to get at Arch. Like, what's Arch? How does he look? Where's Arch? You know, what's going on with Arch? It's over. And like, I can't wait for the season to start so I can just point to I can just say, well, you saw him on TV. Like, you don't got to keep asking me about it. I can't imagine what it must be like for Sark, you know, to constantly, you know, they're just like, I'm just somebody that writes about the team and I'm getting bombarded with questions. I
just feel bad that this is getting in the way of your religious studies. That's the part that I'm concerned about. Like, come on. Your soul does not need to be on a balance beam because of Arch Manning. Come on, Alex, we got to get this done.
Nothing gets between me and Jesus, brother.
Okay, I'm just checking. I want to make sure. Let's make sure. You and JC need to be good. We don't need Arch Manning mess to get between the two of you.
Yeah. Alex isn't wrong, though. I'll show up at a random place, see somebody I haven't talked to in 3 months, and they'll start asking me about, is Arch really as good? I'm like, dude.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, it is one of the big questions, obviously, going into this season. And as we talk to you today, we're 11 days away from Arch and Sayin head-to-head in Columbus, and we'll see if Texas can get it done. If y'all want to throw in a super chat, we will get right to it. Also, we continue to thank our great partners around here like AV Consultations. They can get you all set up. Let's see and hear about all that cool stuff. Here you go.
Hey y'all, I'm Camille McKay.
And I'm Tom McKay, owner of Audiovisual Consultations.
The old man and I are here to give you your summer weather forecast. It's hot.
That's right, kid.
Which means it's time for pool parties, grilling burgers, and taking a beach vacation, right?
Well, I don't know about a vacation, but Audiovisual brings more heat than any tropical destination.
It was worth a shot. I'll settle for some outdoor speakers.
You know, Audiovisual can do a lot more than that. We provide outdoor video screens, audio systems, landscape lighting, even solar shades for your patio to keep the Texas heat at bay.
Well, I'm sold. Let's wrap this up. I'm ready to lounge on a floaty and listen to some smooth jazz.
Well, that sounds wonderful, but some smooth reggae is the way to go this summer.
Good thing we can listen to both with the Sonos sound system. I call dibs on the floaty, though. Peace out.
Kid, wait a second. Give us a call at 512-255-8678 or visit us at avconsultations.com. That's 512-255-8678.
Yes, indeed. Get your hookup, get it all set up. avconsultations.com. Season closing in, I should say. NFL, college football, all that good stuff. Okay, one other question, guys, before we wrap up today. I was going to ask you guys, do you have an argument for me for an offensive player for Texas making the first or second team AP preseason All-American team? 3 guys on defense did make the first team: Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill, Michael Taft. No defensive player made the second team, and no offensive player made either team. I was a little surprised, but then when pressed on it this week and somebody said, well, Chad, who would you make the argument for? It was a little tough to try to think, well, who would I make the argument for based on, who they took? So, Cody, let me start with you. Do you have an argument for me for a Texas offensive player that should have been on one of those 2 teams?
I don't think you really have a real one unless you want to go out on a limb and say Arch, but you can't put Arch over Nussmeier or Klubnik just based on the fact that those guys have both played multiple seasons. After that, I guess you could potentially tell yourself a story with Gooseby. I like Gooseby, but when you look at the tackles that were included in both those first teams, it's top 10 pick, first round pick. Like it's a established group. And then at the wide receiver room, whether you feel a certain way about Wingo or DeAndre Moore, it is what it is. But the guys that are on those lists are superstars and people that have done a lot more in the sport than those 2 have. So I don't really think that there's anybody that quote unquote deserves to be on that list.
Okay. Jason, would you agree?
I was getting a phone call. I'm sorry. So was it first team? You said first team
or second team? No offensive players were first.
Yeah, no. Team. Cody summed it up well. Could Arch be there at the end of the year? Absolutely. Would I put him there now? No. Wingo, could he be there? Maybe. There's an outside chance, first or second team, but does he deserve to be there right now? No. None of these guys have the skins on the wall going into the season that I think you can make a legitimate case that they should be first or second team.
Interesting. Alex, would you agree with that? And then also, like, if I sent you to the window in Vegas and said, all right, give me 3 names, bet on 3 Texas names that you think would be on one of those 2 teams by the end of the year.
Oh, see, that's the thing. It's like like I was about to say, you're totally like, if you were putting them on there, you'd be betting on the come, because even a guy like Gooseby, like, who was just awesome last year, and the Texas fans know how great he was in such clutch spots against NFL first round talent, just very, very awesome. That's not national. That's like, it's like a 2-3 game sample size, right? That's not anything that's known in the national sphere. The person, honest, you can't put Arch, like, the idea that you would have somebody that is actually on there based on what they've actually done on the field versus projection, and I think very likely projection, right? We're talking about players here that do have the absolute easy tell, man, like this easy run out, this easy story to tell that leads to, like, they're going to be a first team All-American, right? You don't have to spin up a weird tale for a bunch of these guys, but they haven't done it yet. The guy that's closest to having done it yet would be Trey Wisner, and I'm not sure that you would put him on the first or the second team. I would say 3 guys who I would put on the short list to do it. I think that's the easiest 3. Well, it's actually not that easy, but it's Wingo, it's Arch Manning, and it's Trevor Gooseby.
Yeah. No injuries.
Injuries, he has a good.
Injuries was the one who I said it's easy, the top 3, and I thought injuries, and I said so it's not that easy.
I don't know who the tight ends were that were in front of him, but I could certainly make a case like, hey, you good value for your bet. If
I'm sure it was Vanderbilt. It was probably Eli Stowers, and it was probably the guy that transferred from Purdue, Max Clare.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, you nailed it. Those are the 2 in that order. Yeah, Stowers first team, Clare was second team. So I think that's a fair way to say it. And I'll keep also saying this. I love it for the motivational factor for Sark, because logically, work your way through it. Yes, you could make the argument, look, fellas, you just haven't done enough. But to your point about Wisner, Alex, I'd remind Trey Wisner that he's not on there. I would. He's got the most yards of like any returning SEC back, I think. And should he be there? Maybe not when you look at those guys, but I don't care. would use that all day in a weight room, in a workout, just constantly reminding Wisner, Wingo, Gooseby, Arch Manning, they don't care about you. They don't respect you. They don't think you're. I would do that all day long. I'd do it during warm-ups in Columbus. I'd be reminding these
You
guys.
would be a fun guy to be around, Chad. All you do is just remind people that they're not on these lists, huh? Just do it all day, every time you see them.
Art, you're the Heisman favorite, but people don't respect you. They think you're terrible.
Right? That's exactly it. I'm a happy guy. You want to get them focused on AP voters. That's the big thing you want to have them do. All right. Thank you all for jumping in the chat. If you want to throw in, somebody wanted to make an argument for Wingo earlier, and hey, Wingo certainly could have, I guess, kind of an argument, but when you realize that Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams have to be in on the first team, and then what else did they do there? They went with those two. They went with Jordan Tyson from Arizona State, and the second team guys are where'd the receivers go? Antonio Williams from Clemson, Surratt from Indiana, Cam Coleman from Auburn. So
Auburn's got some receivers.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. Now, do they have a guy that can get them the football? That'll be the question. And a coach that can figure out how to get them the football.
Well, apparently he says that they're going to be using 3 quarterbacks. You guys see that today?
No, is that right?
Yeah, it's probably not true. But
hey, I've watched football long enough to know, Alex, that is the best way to win titles. Yeah. 3 quarterbacks, just rotate them around all day.
Use them situationally. That's all football is these days, is being multiple, right?
It works so well. Yeah. It works so well. Last year when Florida played A&M and they just swapped back and forth between Mertz and DJ Lagway, it worked perfectly. No, wait a minute. They lost that game by like 13 points by the end of it because they were messing around with their quarterback situation. Now they kind of know who their guy is. Yeah, that one's a little bit different. All right. Shout out to all of you in the Specs chat. Let's hear from Specs real quick. Here's Lisa playing beer pong and, reminding you about what they do.
Texans know for selection and lower prices, it all starts at Specs. Shop Specs! With all your favorites on tap, you'll bring home the win. Boots on, drinks up. The fun starts here. Shop Specs!
Thanks to Specs for their great partnership. Thanks to you guys with the chat. Let's throw this one in. You think it's possible we have 2 running backs with 1,000-yard seasons in Baxter and Wisner? Interesting.
Maybe over 17 games, but I still don't think it happens.
No, I don't
if
think
they're
so
talking,
either, man.
That's a no for 12 games.
You got Ohio State last year that had 2. I'm just going to say that they had two better runners than these guys, and that was Quinn Sean Judkins and Travion Henderson. And both those guys, I think both those guys barely crested 1,000, going all the way to the national championship.
Yeah. So Alex, I know, and Cody, Jason, y'all all may know this one, but I see Travion Henderson obviously with that immediate impact on the Patriots. Remind me where Judkins is, and is he doing anything preseason wise?
No, he's with the Browns, but they just declared. So he had an allegation in Florida of a domestic situation.
Oh God, that's right. I swear I wasn't even setting that up as a joke. I did hear. I saw that the other day. Has he played at all or not?
He didn't even say
he played. No, he was in. So he was in voluntary. He was a mandatory OT. He was at mandatory minicamp, voluntary OTAs, all that stuff. But then this stuff came up between now and then, and he hasn't been in fall. He just got. He still hasn't signed his contract.
Oh,
he still hasn't signed his contract, and I don't understand. We were talking about this on our show on Roster Watch earlier. By the way, if you have fantasy drafts this weekend, go to rosterwatch.com, download the Ultimate Draft cheat sheet, where an expert quality draft is always guaranteed. But the thing is, I'm just like, how did Isaiah Bond, that had a similar allegation where it was a similar outcome, where the prosecution declined to press charges, why they just give Isaiah Bond a pretty awesome guaranteed deal that's just right in between the end of second round money and beginning of third round money, guaranteed, and they just sign him. But Quinn Sean Judkins, who they took in the second round, who they declined prosecution on as well for similar type of different allegations, and now they're saying for him there could be an NFL investigation, and they're not going to sign him until this thing gets all worked out and stuff. I don't understand. There is something a little bit odd going on with Quinn Sean, and I can't understand the exact legal process and NFL process with it. But from what I understand, he's been cleared of the charges and should be able to sign with the team. But now there's an issue with him actually signing. So he's not out there practicing yet, and we're kind of getting close. So
yeah. And to this question about Texas and could they have 1,000-yard backs, I'm also interested in this game from that perspective. Ohio State loses 4 guys to me that are particularly interesting in this game. Sawyer and Tuimoloau attacking on defense, but those 2 running backs, when they got them going last year, good Lord, were they tough to stop. So they're both gone. And I just wonder who really has the best group of running backs in this ball game. Ohio State fans are trying to convince themselves that their young guys are badass and they're better than Texas. Texas fans want to believe their guys are healthy and ready to roll. I'm leaning a little bit towards Texas in terms of the full scope of it. I think they have the better room, but I mean, we're going to find out obviously in 11 days, but that's just a lot to lose, man. Judkins and Henderson, it's so much to not have going into a game 1 like that.
Yeah, and you've seen, like, even though we haven't seen Judkins, we have seen Travion.
Oh, how about that first touch in the NFL?
He looks like. I mean, we're having conversations in fantasy football whether it's like we should bump this guy to, like, RB. Cody, we're talking like RB 14 and stuff. Like I mean, he's looked that good, and he's going to have that definer. Such a clean pass protector. He's going to be on the field a lot, man. It's like they've lost a couple of really, really good runners. So it's going to be yeah. I mean, guys are always hard to replace, and at a place like Ohio State, they recruit so well that it's generally next man up. But it's like you can't really have a next man up after you lose Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson. Texas fans realize that, and it feels like that's kind of what just happened with the Ohio State backfield.
And it's game 1. You do not get the warm-up game. You don't get you talked about earlier, Alex, you don't get that Southern, Eastern, Western, whoever to deal with. This is a unique, if it had been a 1-2 AP, it would have been the first ever, but I don't know how many 1-3 matchups we've ever started the season with. Like it just doesn't happen every day. And it's the very first time Texas has ever been in this spot to be number 1 to start a season. So it's just like, it's almost hard to know what to expect when you have key guys in these spots that are coming back. You trust them a little, but how much do you trust them? It's going to be wild to watch. All right, so somebody's answering the question here. Chad, we have the better running back room, but Ohio State has the better offensive line room, so it might be a moot point. It's maybe an interesting.
We'll see, man. Vivek, we're gonna find out, dude.
Yeah,
we're gonna find out. Like it's like I tell those people at the grocery store, or at church, or at the cookout. Like a lot of this stuff. I mean, like we're gonna the good. Like I'll give you my answer with what I think, but man, there's so many unknowns about this football game. The good news is we have how many days left until it gets played?
11 days.
So we're gonna be out of the double digits soon.
Yeah,
man, it's good.
That's it. It's closing in. It is closing in quick. All right, before we close up the show here, let's remind you once again about the good folks over at the Texas Card House. There are 6 locations in Texas. Get on over there, and when you check in, mention Orange Bloods. Get 1 month free club membership, 2 hours of free poker play as well, and keep your ears peeled for those specials, possibly for a TCH Social Austin, and maybe those watch parties for Texas and Ohio State. I think we're cooking towards that in 11 days. We'll get you more details when we've got them. And, of course, they've got Hijack Poker for you. Go to hijackpoker.com. Anywhere in the state of Texas. Got to be in Texas to do it. Download it on any device and get to playing at Hijack Poker. Our man Cody Carpentier at one point jumped in a 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m. game at some point. Cody, how we doing on Hijack Poker? Any recent stories?
Well, I will say that I think Alex said it was 9 a.m. that one time, but in reality, I woke up and I was waiting for Alex to wake up. I don't think he woke up till 9 a.m. I was actually on there at 5:30, and I'll be honest with you, that was way more active on that app than I ever thought any app was at 5:30 in the morning. And there was people.
You got a bunch of degenerates, man. Like those guys that get up, or those guys weren't waking up. They were still like
they were in
like they were about to go to bed here pretty soon
at dollar tables. Like that is a different level of maniacal gameplay playing dollar tables at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, I'll be back in Austin in just over a week and a half, and then I'll be right back on the app.
There you go. Good stuff. I'm going to go hit TCH Social Austin this week, check in with them, see how things are going, and double check for those watch parties. I'm going to ask about those beer specials first. Y'all know I've got you covered on that. So hopefully that's coming up for the season. All right, good quarterback conversation today. One more time, I'm going to throw it up. This is what Julian Sayin is facing. 20 years of football, when a quarterback makes his first start against the number one team in the country, he is 0-18. Can Texas keep that string going, or can Julian Sayin, of all people, break that string? We're going to find out in 11 days. Gentlemen, anybody else got any business to attend to? You good? We're all good? All the mods are good. That means they're headed back to orangebloods.com. You go see them at Orange Bloods. You can get your first week for $1, $1. Try it out. Find out what everybody talks about. What's going on with this war room? That's Thursday nights. Go check that out. All the recruiting stuff, all the breakdowns, all the info, and one of the craziest message boards you could ever hope to check out. That's all there at orangebloods.com. So go check it out as soon as you can. We appreciate the support. Also, catch those two guys down on the bottom, Football with Friends. Keep looking for that content. Go to the video section or the shorts section if you don't find what you're looking for. And thank you guys for getting that subscriber number to keep climbing and keep climbing. We're on our way to, I think, 83,000 is the next marker. You can't get to 8 million until you get to 83,000. So please get subscribed if you're not. It's free to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe if you haven't. Tell your friends to subscribe if they haven't. We appreciate your support. Until next week, we debut the Modcast Tuesdays at 12. Until next week.